So before we start anything, I will take you through how you would, as a beginner, would want to start your C++ programming journey. Before you write any code, you will need something we call an IDE. And for this C++, we would use dev C++. In fact, IDE is an integrated development environment, which will enable you to code your whatever you'd want to, whether it's an application, a software, or even a cloud, something you'd want to do, would give you the chance to code them in every language you would want. But for this C++, you will use the app specifically called dev C++. I hope most of you are aware of this and familiar with this app. Okay, so from the interface on your screens, you would see the dev C++ on the YouTube screen. And as I hover the mouse through the main function over there, I just want to take you through some few things. Most people say, how do I start a new program in C++? So today I'm just going to walk you through how basically you would start a new project, how you would run any code you would want to run with the dev C++, okay? And then many beneficial tools you would need and insights you would need for you to be able to grasp the knowledge using C++. The first question most people ask is, why do we use console application? From your screen, I'm going to type something, okay? Most of the times when you are about to give a command, for example, let me put it in the body of the code. When you're about to input something like what I was saying was, most people would ask one basic question, why do we use console application? I just want to take you through something that is already familiar to you, but you might not know how it's being used or the main function. So, for example, if you want to call an output function, okay, you bring from the screen, I'm typing it, so you should see. From the screen, you bring these, is it less than, or I should call it symbols. Then you put something like your cout, okay. Now, cout basically means console out, okay. So you put your cout, which in other terms, for example, in Python, it will be, let's say, printing or print ln, something like that. You would bring your brackets, and then you would put your whatever you'd want your code to output there. For example, let's say hello world, or hello prempekata, or hello blah 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 you would want. So this cout means console out, okay? And I'm trying to let you understand, why do we use the console application? We use the console application because it allows you to interact with users through the keyboard and screen. So the console displays our output using cout, as I already said, and it accepts your user input using cin. So it is the easier way to learn programming before moving to graphical applications like the GUIs and all that. So we are going to create a new project and select the console application. Okay, so from your YouTube screen, you should see my mouse pointer hovering. Okay, so you would come to new. Okay, then we come to project. We would want to create a new project. So you put your mouse pointer on the file name and new, then you drag it towards project. Okay, you drag it towards project, then you click on project, then you choose console application. Okay, you can edit the name of your project here. In this case, it's already by default project 10, but I would want to use Winfred Carter. Okay, you can make it like in any name you would want. Then you click on OK. Then you start a new project. It will give you a prompt to show you, let's say if you have already opened a new project, okay, it will give you a prompt to show you whether you'd want to start a new project with the new name you have already said. Then you just click on yes. Then there we go. So you choose where you would want to save it. So initially there, when we see main, okay, in any programming like code, for example, C++ in this perspective, main is trying to tell you the function of the code. Here we have the main.cpp, meaning the main is the name and it's using the same function. But I want to modify it, okay, which is possible. So I just change it from here Let's say cout, okay. And I've saved that a C++ extension, which means I'll be able to use the dev C++ to run it. And then I'll just save it. Okay. So when I save it, you see it has opened a new project interface for me. Okay. So when you see something like this, then before you do anything, let me take you through this. When it opens for you like this, from here, I'm going to highlight some interfaces, okay? From here downwards is basically the body. So between here, I'm coming. So between here, between this place to the return zero, it's where everything that you code should be contained in. Is that clear with everyone? So this is where your body is. Where I have highlighted in blue, in deep blue, is where you'll find your body. And then this main here is trying to tell you the name of the function, okay? So we have our int main, and then the int here simply means integer. Basically, we have types, we have functions and we have types, okay, in C++. So integer is a type in the C++ programming. We have various types like uh, you for now, let's stick to the integer for now because we will get to that. But we are telling our code that what you are going to put in the body and everything that it will output to us is going to be an integer. So for this code, there is nothing in the body except return 0. We are trying to say that our code should return 0, which 0 is also an integer. So we need to get this off head before you need to understand this before you can code a proper C++ programming. Let's write our first program. So just like we have here, include our include IOStream and using namespace std. Then you bring your colon, okay? I'm coming. Then you move to your identifying the type of function you'd want. So with this case, as I said earlier, we are starting with integers, okay? So our int, then main, which is our function. Sorry, our int, then our main, which is our function. Then we bring our bracket. So we bring our bracket, right? Then inside our bracket, so as we bring our brackets, we would make sure we have our curly brackets. Now you can put your curly brackets here, or you can bring it to the new line where I've brought the mouse pointer. Either way, it's going to work. Okay. So after we have this, make sure that return zero, your return zero here, as I said, anything from the function, okay, to the last parenthesis is going to be your body. So it means we would have to delete this parenthesis, which will make everything that will be from here downwards to the return zero our body. I hope it's clear with everyone. Great. So we will start with what we want our code to do. For now, we say we want our code to just print hello world. So we will start with the console application, just like I've already explained. So console out, and we would have our two less than I would call it. Either ways. Right. Then we would have our no. Yes. So great. So then our inverted commas, then we put, let's say, hello world. Okay. Hello world. Then we make sure we bring our colon. Okay. Then we can say it should return 0. So from here, if you run this code, it's supposed to work. So if you are following, you can also run this code to see if it actually works. Mm. So as you can see here, it's compiling. So you see, from our console here, we've seen hello world, which is what we wanted our program to print out for us. Um, Someone is asking a question from the comment section that why does C++ needs both .h and .hpp header files and then .c++ source files? Okay, so the reason why it needs that is because the compiler processes each source, for example, the .c++ file independently and sequentially, which will require forward like declaration of the entity's existence and size, type signature before the entity can be used in the code. Let me show you the reason why, like a clear example. Now for here, I already said before you save every code, you would have to identify the extension, and then the ID you are using would run the code based on how the app is being the code is being identified. So that is why it uses those header files. Please, do we understand? So for this one, we have it main.cpp. It means the code will recognize it as a C++ app. Now, for example, if we change it to be main.c sharp, if we change it to be main.c sharp, it means our code will, the ID will recognize it as a C sharp code. But the syntax we have used here is solemnly like ideal to C++, which will make our console print out an error program. Do we understand it? Yes. So we give the source files and the header files based on the code we are writing so that the IDE it will match the syntax we've given it so that there will be no errors in our program. I hope everyone is clear. Okay, so now we've been able to print hello world. Mm. And if you were able to print the hello world, please can we see in the comment section? All right. So I'll just go over to explain the code and everything. So someone would ask the include IOStream. So this actually imports the input and output library. In programming, we call some things library, okay? Um, for example, if you are coding in Python, object-oriented is different from other programming languages. For Python and other programming languages, you would actually have to install the libraries. Okay. For example, if you would want to work with numbers in Python, there is a library called NumPy. But that library would not work just by you calling it in your code, just like we've called include IOStream. So input and output stream. So we've said include input and output stream. No, in Python, just calling the library wouldn't let it work, but you would have to install them first. But for object-oriented programming, whether it's C++, whether it's Java, your libraries and everything are already packed with your IDE. So you don't need to install any external library for you to use them. So any library you would bring out or you would call, it will work. So as I'm saying, the IOStream or the include IOStream we are calling the input and output libraries. This means our code would be able to give us any output. And if we even request an input, we would be able to put them in the console. Okay. Then using namespace std. So this allows us to write console out, the console out instead of just putting std. Just as I said, this is a console program application. So the using namespace std allows us to put write our C out, the console out, let it print the hello world instead of putting the std there. Okay. Then the int main, just like I explained earlier. This integer is trying to say our code type here, and this int is trying to let us know that this code type here is dealing with integers, okay? And then the main here is a function. So this is the starting point of every C++ program. And then every execution starts from here. Now, the return 0, which I'm going to highlight for you here, means the program executed successfully. Basically, in C++, it is mandatory for you to bring a return 0 at every point of your program, at the end of every program. So in C++, it is mandatory for you to put the return 0. Some people might say either break or something. Either ways, you are correct. So let's go to the output. Now, whenever you use cout, just as I said, console out, you are trying to say your code should display an information to the user. Okay, so we use the cout here, as I've explained earlier, to display an output we would want the code to bring to the user. Now let's talk about other types that we have. Just as I said, we have types like integer, we have variables, we have characters, we have a whole lot. So we are going to talk about variables, okay? So as the name suggests, right, variables are containers, okay? So they are containers that keeps data. And then variables are, it means it can be interchangeable, meaning variables are not like just distinct. So it can be, you can do different things with variables when you are doing coding in C++. So let me give an example of using a variable. So for example, let's say this int, and okay, let me clear this. So we are going to define for this type, we are going to say, okay, we are dealing with integers. So any number we put inside, the code will recognize it. It will not say it's syntax error or something. So we are declaring our integer to be 20. We bring our our semicolon, then we declare our float height. Okay, ht. Oh, float height to be equal to 1.75. Then we bring our semicolon. So our integer will be equal to 20, right? Our float height will be 1.75. Then our character, which will be identified with char. Oh, sorry. Instead of one, yes, I put exclamation. So our char, we are saying char grade should be A. Okay, we have our A. And then we come to our string name. Right. String name is going to be John. Okay. And then we will use Boolean here, okay? So you see, I'm using very different types here. We would explain each and every one. So our bool will be, let's say, passed. True. Let me bring our column. So basically, what I've written here, they are just examples, okay? Examples of the variables, like how we are saying each of them should store anything, what have you. So the integer would store whole numbers, the float will store decimal numbers. That is why we have 1.75 there. And then our character, okay, will store a single character. So it means you cannot put John in character grade. Do we get it? So just like I said, variables are not extinct. So they can be for different types. And so we have different variables here that you would assign different stuffs to. Okay. And then we have our string which will only take text. So it means if you put a number in the string, it might not work. Great. And then we have the boolean which deals with true or false. Okay. And then we have double, which does more accurate decimal. Anyways, let's go to taking input. Hmm. Why the column? It's not column, it's actually semicolon. Okay. Yes, it's actually semicolon. And you know, I said return zero is a mandatory thing in C++. If you don't put your semicolon at the end of your line or every code line, the syntax will not be able to recognize it as valid. So there will be an error in that line. That is why we bring semicolon. Please, do you understand? Great. And then I think someone was asking a question like variable something. Check for me. So going forward, we will talk about taking input. So taking input, let's say we are using string name, okay? And then we bring our semicolon, which means it has ended. So the person's question was like, why there is no variable name after the integer. Okay, so basically just as like I explained, okay, it's okay, you let me just put it there. Let's say number, okay. It's not actually like, the reason why I didn't even put it there is because, or even it's not there is because it's not like it should be like this all the same. I explained to you that integers here means this variable container will take only numbers. Please, do we get it? Good. And then the float container here, which is a variable, is also showing that it can only take numbers or decimal. It can only take decimal points. Do we get it? Great. So it doesn't mean the height is actually 1.75, but mostly we can get heights in 1.75. That is why we have it there. So I can even change the height here and put something like weight. Okay. So it's not something that is stagnant. I'm just putting it there to like do an illustration. And then you see for the last one, the Boolean character variable, sorry. I put passed here equals true. Now I can also in that same manner put false. You get it? Boolean is for just two things, true or false. So I can put, let's say, what do you call it? Mm, qualified. Okay. I can put qualified there. It doesn't change anything. I'm just trying to modify, or how should, yes, I'm just trying to like add quality to the explanation of the characters I've brought over there. And here I said string name. This can only take for strings only take text. Do you understand? So the word name there doesn't necessarily mean it should be joined. I can even put company here. And inside here, it would be Cartersville, okay? Which is not wrong. So if you make up your mind that int, you have to put number there or else you are wrong. No, that is not how it works. That's why I'm showing you float deals with decimal points. So if you are coding and you need decimal points, then you would need to implement your float variable. Please, is it understood by everybody? Great. So then let's go to the taking input. All right. So we have string name, just like I've put over there, and then we have console out, our console out, and then we have let's say enter name. Okay. Now this is trying to say our code or our console will display or give us a prompt telling us to enter a name. So this means we would need to input something. Okay. I'm taking you through the input methods in the C++. Great. So I bring my semicolon here to tell the code this line has ended. Then I come to my C in, console in. Mm. Then I bring my, please be very like careful of the symbols I'm using. Or how should I call it? Is it character or whatever? The less than and the greater than I'm using for both of them. You don't use the less than for the C in and the greater than for the C out. Make sure in your exams you don't go and miss any of them. Great. So we have our C in and then let's say hello. Okay. Okay, let's say what's your name? Okay, let's say hello. Because this C out is already telling us what's our name. Basically, what's our name? So we have hello here, and then there will be an option for us to put our name. So when we put our name, then it will come hello, let's say Carter, or hello, blah blah blah. Like, do we get it? Right. So When I'm at home. That's right. So when we would come to our C out, yes, great. So if we have this, mm, please, are you following? So somebody is asking what's the difference between float and what double. Okay, so basically it's like they are doing the same thing. The only difference is the double deals with more like decimal accurate points. Like, do you get it? So for float, we are having like 1.75. Let's say you are dealing with numbers that range from like very less numbers, minute numbers. Okay, minute numbers. If you are coding, let me give this example. When you are doing Arduino, okay, Arduino programming, you would need to be very careful of your distances. For example, if you are using a breadboard, because it deals with whether there will be a delay in the response of everything you are coding. Even in um, this, when you are doing embedded systems, right? So if you are coding and you think you would need very accurate decimal points, then you would use double instead of float so that it will reduce either a delay in a response or anything you are coding. Please, do you understand? Great. So coming back to the input function I have here, I've already declared to the IDE that I'm going to be doing something that deals with text. Get it clear because I've already identified my string here. So I'm going to be dealing with something that deals with text. And also get this clear. It's not only going to be name. As I said, I can put, let's say, company here. Or I can put, let's say, food. Do you get it? And then in my C out, I'll be like, enter your food. And then my C name, I would put my, let's say, the food I want there. And then the C out will print hello. Then it will print my food. Basically, anything that deals with text. It's not only limited to name. Okay, in programming, you have been advised to explore. So there is nothing like stagnant stuff in C++. All right, then let's move forward. So, explaining the difference between C in and C out, the console in and the console out. So, as I said earlier, using arithmetic operations, using comparison operators, just like as I call it, the greater than and the less than. In arithmetic operators, we have something like plus. Great. Great. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we have plus, we have minus, we have asterisk, we have stroke, and we have percentage. Basically, if you use the stroke sign, it's like a division. Okay. So we have the percentage sign as well. And so implementing them, we can say let's say integer a or integer a will be equal to, let's say integer a equals 10. Either way it will work, but let's be on the safer side. So integer a equals 10. And then let's say integer b equals 5. All right. And then you will give in this command or this method, I'll call it. See out a, a plus b. And you bring our semicolon. Okay. Then you would come back to our see out. Another one. So I'll see out. Then we would have A minus B. Uh, So A minus B. Then we bring our semicolon. Then we have another C out. Then we have A over B.
Wow, what do engineering get? Engineering, School of Engineering. Whatever, School of Engineering.
So A over B. Okay. So, okay, so just like I said, we saying this is trying to tell our code to give us an output of A plus B, A minus B, and then A over B. Okay, is that right with everybody? Then let's go to comparison operators. Hmm. Okay, so with the comparison operators, they actually run either false or true. So we have like greater than, we have less than and equal to. So, okay, then we have greater than or equal to. Then we will have this. Then we have this one too. Basically equivalent, okay. Mm. Okay, so let's take one example after everything I have said here. Let's see if we can implement everything that we've learned so far. So I would want you to open a new program console, okay? And then I would give you some questions for you to tell your code to or code it to give me the answers. So let's all take our machines, open a new program, a new project, use a new console. Let's go. Start a new project. Good. So you are to write a. I wish I could put the question on the screen so that you guys can see. Hold everybody. I want to put the question on the screen. So when the question comes on the screen, kindly take a screenshot or write it so that you can write it and make sure you will be able to understand and go over it. Then we go to our next section. So you can see the question on the screen. You can see the question on the screen. And I'm going to read. Write C++ statements that accomplish the following. A. Declaring integer variables x and y. Initialize x to 25 and y to 18. B. Declare double into brackets integers variables x and y. Initialize x to 25 and y to 18. C. Declare and initialize a double variable pay rate to 12.50. D. Suppose x and y are double variables. Output the contents of x, y, and the expression of x plus y over y minus 18. Then we go to E, the last one. Copy the value of an integer variable. And then the integer variable, I think the name is there, first number, okay, into an integer variable called temporary number or temp number. I'm going over the E again. Copy the value of an integer variable named first number into an integer variable named temp number. All right, so please, you can start working on it. I would also be working on it right here. Okay, guys. So if you if you have been able to do it, if you have been able to do it, then you should be able to. Your code should be like as I'm going to put here. For example, the A. Okay. Let me bring the hash sign. Okay. So for A, I would have, let's say, just like the program says, I should declare integer variables x and y, and then I should initialize x to be 25, y to be 18. Okay, so maybe you might have seen from my code that I'm having the hash sign and the A. Basically, this is what we call commenting in code, okay? If you are coding, most of the times you can have like 4,000 lines of code. And then for you to be able to track or come back to a code to fix an error or get to know what the code means, let's say you've left the code for some years, we call something documenting. So in coding them, you put comments in places where they are important to you. And then when you run your code, these comments, because it starts with an asterisk, sorry, the hash sign, the code doesn't recognize it. So it doesn't get involved in anything you do, but it can be used to explain your code. So that is why, because I want you to know I'm going to answer A or question A, I have commented A there and I'm going to answer under A. And when I run my code or whatever, my comment will not affect it. Please, do you understand? So we call it commenting. Anyways, so I'm declaring my integer x, even as the question says, to be 25. Okay. And I'm having my integer y to be 18. All right. Good. So I would come to B. So I will come to B. Okay. And B says I should declare double integer variables x and y. And I should initialize x to be 25, y to be 18, just like I did in A. So I'll just comment on my B. Let me bring space. Comments on B to show I'm answering B. And then so double x. Okay. I'm initializing it to be 25. And then double y. 18, just like I did in. Okay. Let me come to C then. So C is asking me to declare and initialize a double variable pay rate to 12.50. It's just as easy as you are just declaring them, okay? So you declare your double data type, pay rate should be equal to 12.50. Then I bring my column successfully. Then I come to D. So D is saying I should imagine X and Y are double variables, meaning I should imagine X and Y are a container having that might have decimal points. Okay. I should output the contents of X, Y, and the expression of X plus 12 over Y minus 8. I think we get the question clear, even as I've explained. Great. Let's go. So I'm having my C out. Then I'm having my X. Okay, then I'll have my
Very senior man.
x
Oh, worry.
plus 12.
This one will be short. Is it? It's like
12.0. Mind you, let me continue when I get there. So, just like the code says, y minus 18.
first time I was here talking about it. So, I know.
Voila. So then we come to E. Okay.
Last time, why is it not here continue?
So E is saying I should copy the value of an integer variable, naming it first num, into an integer variable, naming it temporary num. So basically, this is what the question is telling me to do. Temp num. Okay. Temp num equals first num. That is it. So send your favorite emoji or your favorite, yes, emoji, I would say, if you got it correct. Okay.